Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for downloading episode 132 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. We are coming to New York City and we want to see you there. This is going to be NYCC weekend. That's also Columbus Day weekend. And the show is Sunday, October 8th at 6 p.m. That's at the Hudson Mercantile right next to Javits Center. So come on down if you're attending the show, or even if you're not. You do not need a Comic-Con badge to come to see our show, but you do need tickets if you want to see us settling a very important topic with our special guest, Jonathan Colton, making his return to We Got This. Get your tickets at bit.ly/WeGotNY, or go to my website, hallublin.com. You'll see a link at the top. You can get tickets there. Also, the next day, we are doing a Muppet doubleheader in conjunction with the Jim Henson Legacy at the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens. And here's how it's going to work. First, you're going to help us determine the top 5 episodes of The Muppet Show of all time. And then we are going to do a live recording for an audience at Museum of the Moving Image that is going to determine the winner among those 5. We are going to pick the best episode of The Muppet Show of all time, and our guests will be Craig Shemin, who is the president of the Jim Henson Legacy and knows just about anything and everything there is to know about all things Muppets, and making his return to the show and extending his record for most appearances is Mr. John Hodgman. And the most exciting part is, when we determine the winner, that episode will be screened for the audience. We're so excited about that. Then, next show will be Best Classic Muppet Movie. We're talking about the Muppet Movie. We're talking about The Great Muppet Caper. We're talking about The Muppets Take Manhattan. We are going to pick between those movies and choose the best of all time. And we'll be joined by Stephanie DeBrusso from Sesame Street and Avenue Q. We're talking about a Tony-nominated actor and just a brilliant Muppeteer who's going to be joining us to really get into the nitty-gritty and select a winner once and for all. And again, that winner will be screened for the live audience. Where do you get your tickets? I'll tell you. You go to movingimage.us, and that is the ticket link. That's where you go to get what you need to come see us on Monday. That's 2 different shows. But for now, please enjoy episode 132 of We Got This with Mark and Hal. Hello, I'm Hal Lublin.
And I'm Mark Gagliardi.
Since the dawn of humanity, one issue has gone unsettled. With the fate of the world in the balance, we're here to settle, once and for all, Best Christopher Guest Mockumentary.
That's right. Don't worry, everyone. We got this.
Podcast should have a theme song. Podcast should not have a theme song. Yes, they should. No, they shouldn't. They sound good. Yeah, but people are just going to skip past it. You know what? You're right. We got this.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Hal.
How are you?
Why are we talking so
I wanted
quietly?
to throw a reference out at the beginning of this, and I couldn't decide what to do.
So you just spoke very
So
quietly.
I just spoke quietly, like I snuck up on the audience. You know, when people listen to a podcast, they don't know what to expect.
But haven't they already heard you talking for like 10 minutes about promotional things?
Maybe, probably. I told them some stuff that's coming up, and then I probably begged them to go to the Facebook group and sign up. Look, I just want attention, and
That's fair.
sometimes I'll sneak up on you to get it.
Wait, what's that behind me? Wait, how's there another Hal behind me?
How are you doing? I'm the second Hal.
What is happening
Doing
right
a show
now?
for you.
I'm surrounded by Hals and they're all dancing. Oh no, they're tapping. Wait, that one's clogging. You've never seen clogging, have you?
I know it's wooden shoes. No, it's
Oh,
not.
man.
I know.
It's taps that are loosened, so they're super jangly and noisy. And I think it only happens in the South. But I like that you went with the full Jingle Bells, like opening riff, clip clop.
Then what does it sound like? What does it sound like when somebody's actually
It sounds
clogging?
like a little poor street urchin from the 19-teens on the Atlantic City boardwalk
okay?
took 75 tin cans and attached them to each shoe. And you can't tell where the beat is because it's just flapping metal sounds.
My grandfather, my mother's father, worked at Steel Pier in Atlantic City.
That's a musical.
He was Steel Pier on Atlantic City, the musical. He was Robbie the Robot.
What?
And his job was to be stone-faced. So you would try to make him laugh. And I think if you were able to break him, you won like $1 or something. Something that was like, oh, that's a decent little prize. I'm going to give it a shot. So we had a cousin, Gilbert, Gilby, who had a funny looking face. I will do the face for you right now.
By the way, a Philadelphian describing a cousin named Gilbert who's got a funny looking face. Are you currently Bill Cosby?
Lord, I hope not. So this is what he looked like. And he would make a noise too. This is my mother. By the way, I think he was dead by the time I was born, but he looked like this. And he would make that noise.
Did everybody see that?
Everybody. Yeah. Did you see that? Like
he squinched his face up real tight. Real
squished up face. So he went to surprise my grandfather, Felix, on the boardwalk, and walked up to him while he was working and went, "Hey, Phil." And, my grandfather broke up laughing and he won like $1 or whatever without knowing why. He didn't realize that his regular face.
That just did him in.
Yeah.
By the way, the names Felix and Gilbert are what a child names their stuffed animals in the 1940s.
Did I mention my family was created by Neil Simon? But we're not here to talk about Neil Simon.
No, what are we here to talk about?
Comedy. We're here to talk about improvised comedy films. This was suggested by Cindy Clausen. Via Facebook. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy. This is a cool topic because I know we're both huge fans of this guy.
Yes. We're talking, of course, about Christopher Guest, who's like the 50th Earl of Nottingham or something. He has some like crazy royal lineage.
Is he really titled?
He is like an earl or a duke or something like that.
He's a six-fingered man.
He is a six-fingered man.
We know that.
And also, I mean, if you haven't listened to his work on the National Lampoon Radio Hour, you can find that audio somewhere. My impression of Mr. Rogers is based on his impression of Mr. Rogers.
And, for a real treat, listen to him do The Idiot.
Oh, yeah.
It is one of the funniest blackout sketches, and his voice is so perfect in it.
He's so good.
But we're talking about Christopher Guest, and Christopher Guest has made some of the funniest improvised movies of all time.
Yes.
We have a list in front of us. We're going to determine today which of these is the official best for all time movie.
Correct.
We have a list of 6 movies.
Mm-hmm.
They are This Is Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman,
right?
Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, For Your Consideration, and Mascots. And those span 1984 through 2016.
Now, we can lop 2 of those off right away.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Which 2 would you like to lop off?
I think we should lop off Mascots.
Yeah.
And For Your Consideration.
Okay.
I would lop those off. And I love all of these.
They're both great movies. They're both really fun. Mascots is cool because it's got sort of a new era of funny people that, Christopher Guest is working with.
Yes.
For Your Consideration, a hilarious movie that features one of our dear friends, Derek Waters, creator of Drunk History.
Yes.
So I hate to lop it off early. That said, boy, it is tough to beat Spinal Tap, Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and A Mighty Wind. Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and A Mighty Wind all came out like right in a row, along with For Your Consideration.
Pretty close. Like every 4 years, it seems, 3 or 4 years. It was like 96, then 2000, then 2003.
Then 2006. Mascots, it was another 10 years later.
Right. Can we talk? Let's just talk before we get into these, really dig in. Let's talk about what makes these movies so great.
If you haven't seen these movies, these are movies that feature primarily the same ensemble of actors.
Yeah.
Up until Mascots. Mm-hmm. Which, they all improvise the movie. They have a skeleton, as far as I know, this is how they do it.
Right.
They have a skeleton of the structure of the movie, but they all, or the structure of the story, but they all improvise all of the scenes along with Christopher Guest because they are, this is a who's who of improv comedy people.
Yes.
You've got Catherine O'Hara, Fred Willard, Christopher Guest, Bob Balaban,
Eugene Levy, Ed Begley Jr.
Oh man.
And then you have people like Rachel Harris and Deb Thaker that are filling it. Like everybody they have, Larry Miller, Jane Lynch,
brilliant Jane Lynch in Best in
Jennifer
Show.
Coolidge.
Yeah.
It's astounding. The cast they put together, Parker Posey.
It feels like a lot of their cast, is Canadian Second City people. They just poached Second City TV.
Well,
is Christopher Guest Canadian? I don't know his.
I don't think he
is. He is he the 6th Earl of Canada?
Yes. Eugene Levy is his partner in crime.
Right.
So I think because of that, you get people like,
That's how you get your ringers like
yeah,
O'Hara.
yes. But also like Michael McKean and Harry Shearer have now appeared in these films.
That's true.
You know, obviously they're part of Spinal Tap. But a couple of the other people who round out these supporting casts, Michael Hitchcock.
Oh, man.
Who is
always so good.
So good in every movie and is super dynamic in the range of the characters that he plays. But I also think that John Michael Higgins.
Oh, yeah.
Is again, just incredible. They just have people who can do anything. And even the people who come in to do a single scene, guys like Don Lake,
Paul Dooley.
Here's
a cool Paul Dooley thing for you. If you don't know who Paul Dooley is, I guarantee you have seen his face.
Yes.
Because Paul Dooley has been in the second most sitcoms, not episodes, but different sitcoms of all time. Do you know who has been in the most sitcoms of all time?
The most the most numbered, titles of sitcoms, not episodes.
Not episodes, titles.
Who has been in the most sitcoms of all time?
Paul Mooney has been in the second.
Paul Dooley,
not Paul Mooney. Paul Dooley has been in the second most sitcoms of all time.
Ooh, I'm gonna say, oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine Bob Hope.
We've already talked about him
today.
Yes.
In this episode, Michael McKean,
Fred Willard.
Wow.
So there's a little tidbit for you. For some reason, I remembered that from an Entertainment Weekly article a couple of years ago. It might have changed by now, but for some reason that stuck in my head because, I was like, I got to do a thing with him once and I had read this and I was like, Paul Dooley, that's the guy I just did this thing with. And oh my gosh, he's been in the second most sitcoms.
So I used to write and perform for the David Feldman Show, which is a radio show on public radio that was also a podcast. And Paul Dooley was a repertory member of that show. So I used to write stuff just for him. And then we got to perform together. And then he asked me to be part of a thing that he did one time. And it was incredible. We should try to get Paul Dooley on the show. I bet you we can get him.
Sure. Paul, if you're listening, come on the show.
I think I have his phone number.
Perfect.
Let me tell you what it is.
Hey everybody, here's Paul Dooley's social security number.
We're just going to give you his PIN. We won't give you the card number or the bank so you can figure it out. That makes it fun for you.
Exactly. But we are going to give you the LKA of every single member of the Christopher Guest Repertory Company.
Yeah, we're going to give you, just so you can find them. Some of them are hiding, but really he builds a brilliant ensemble. And my understanding is, and I'm sure Derek can speak to this, he's really good at guiding improvisation, which I think is part of it, is you improvise a scene and then he figures out what to keep and what he wants you to expand on. And he takes a group of people like Parker Posey is not someone who was known as an improviser.
But she's just funny and brilliant.
She's brilliant. She's so great. She's great at inhabiting characters. She was like the queen of the indie films by time Waiting for Guffman came out in 96. So it was like, oh, and she's doing this improvised comedy. Oh, and she's hilarious in it. And then you see her in film after film continue to deliver in a big way. So right now we're down to 4 films, right?
We are down to Spinal Tap, or This Is Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and A Mighty Wind.
Okay.
I know what you're about to do.
What am I going to do?
I know what you're going to do. I don't want you to do it, but you're right to do it.
I don't want to do it, but we have to do it.
I know we have to do it.
What are we going to do?
Spinal Tap is a brilliant, brilliant movie.
It is.
That was created by Rob Reiner.
It's a Rob Reiner film.
Featuring Christopher Guest.
Yeah, when we talk about Christopher Guest, and I know that he and Harry Shearer and Michael McKean, that was their thing. It wasn't like Rob Reiner said, hey, I want to create this fake metal band and I want you 3 guys to do it. I think it was developed at least by 2 of the 3 of them, if not the 3 of them. However, it is a Rob Reiner film. He directed it. It's his thing. The other films that we're talking about, the other 5 are all Christopher Guest.
The other 3 now.
They're his, yes. But I mean, the other 5 on the original list, now 3. So we can't include Spinal Tap. As much as we could sit here and talk about it.
How great. Go watch Spinal Tap.
So many memorable. Yes, please.
Go watch it.
I like in the beginning of this where you're like, if you haven't seen these films and then proceeded to describe them, where I know if at this point, those people are not listening anymore.
Oh,
Guys,
you know what? I didn't even think about that.
For those of you who are still here, there are a bunch of people who aren't listening anymore. Just tell us, what do you really think of them? We're not going to give an opinion.
No. We're not going to tell them. We promise.
But if you have stuff that you want to say,
you can say it.
We're going to listen right now.
Ooh, that was harsh.
That was really mean. You know what? Stop. I don't want to do this anymore.
Let's just get back to the episode.
I thought it was going to be good for us to get stuff out, but that just felt like it was straight attack.
That felt like just some straight up Twitter-esque vitriol.
Yeah, just say it to their face, please.
Jeez.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. So
let's start with, how do you want to do this? Do you want to look at the collection of characters that was created by the core ensemble people? Do you want to look at just how freaking funny the movie is? Do you want to look at it's tough to the thing is we usually compare and have literally compared apples and oranges on this show.
Yes.
But this really feels like apples to apples with slight differences.
It is. And I think everybody, if you're a dog person, then Best in Show is something that you relate to because you know what dog owners are like and what their relationships with their pets are like. If you're someone who is a big fan of music or has performed in music or worked in a theme park, then you probably are more drawn to A Mighty Wind.
Or if you're even just a baby boomer.
Yes.
With that, folk music.
Or if you've ever been involved in or have seen a community theater production.
As both of us have.
Then probably Waiting for Guffman speaks more directly to you. I will tell you that Ken Belinsky, who listens to this podcast and was the integral instructor in my acting career, the one who helped give me a foundation off which to build and taught me the value of being professional and easy to work with and working quick and all of that. It was a difficult film for him to watch, or was, because all of those people seemed real to him. You know, you see all three of these films and you go, these people are very far flung, and to an extent they're caricatures. Yes. Sure. But they're also very real people.
Yeah. There's the beauty of the characters that they create in these movies are the specificity of each of them. Yeah. Everyone, it's not just Corky St. Clair is not just a Queenie theater director.
No.
He is specific in what he wants, in what he wears, in how his hair looks, in how he treats this community, how he feels about this community.
Yeah.
And you know all of these details. Parker Posey isn't just the, hayseed kid. She's the hayseed kid who has, everybody's so specifically drawn in this.
Yeah.
And these little detail moments, whether it's in that instance, Parker Posey just listing off the things that you can do while sitting at a Dairy Queen, or Christopher Guest listing off names of nuts in Best in Show.
And practicing his ventriloquism. And making his dog talk. Say, hey, I'm the best one you ever seen. Hey, judges. You've had dogs.
Yes.
Did you make your dogs talk? Did your dogs have voices?
Oh yeah.
What were your dog's voices?
My dog's voice. No, they're not. It wasn't like I'm just thinking back fondly on my dog's voices. Maxwell had her own voice. She was loud. But, in thinking about like who would voice these dogs, Rosie Perez came up a lot.
Okay.
So we would just, anytime it was Maxwell's turn to talk, it was just a Rosie Perez impression. What about you in the week that you had a dog?
No, well, when I had dogs growing up, that dog had no voice. The dog I had as an adult had no voice. But growing up, Pepper, the first dog we had, she sounded like this. That was Pepper. And then there was Patches, hello, Daddy, who was based off of Terry from Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh, there you go. I like
hello,
that.
Pee-wee.
Hello, Pee-wee.
I want to be the baby. My mother would have her say things like, instead of the flash, it'd be flish, 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 fish, dish, fish. I don't know why we thought that was great, but we did. I still hold it dear.
I still think it's great.
It's charming, isn't it?
Pretty charming.
Yeah, dogs have voices. And then Brandon, the golden retriever that we also had for a week when I was a kid, sounded like because he was not the smartest dog. He would walk into walls.
Did he say words, or were those the only words he said?
I think that was mostly what he said. He didn't have too much to say.
Let's talk about Best in Show.
Okay.
Because and this is a good example of what these movies do really well, is they play like, for anybody out there who's an improviser, one of the things that you learn is if you set up early on that there is going to be a big event at the end, then you can just play with a million characters getting to that point.
Right.
And that's what all of these movies do. In A Mighty Wind, it's the big reunion concert or the benefit concert. In Best in Show, it's the
Mayflower dog show.
And in Waiting for Guffman, it's Red, White, and Blaine.
Yeah.
So they all have a final event. Maybe we could start with that, actually. I was going to talk about,
you wanted to talk about Best in Show, but
now my brain is going, this could be fun. Let's break down the events at the end and pick which one of those we think is the winner.
Okay.
Red, White, and Blaine, the community theater performance.
Yes.
That the whole movie has built up to. First of all, that has a special place for me. I actually have, all of the songs from Red, White, and Blaine that I have pulled off the internet over the years. And I have an album that is the Red, White, and Blaine soundtrack.
Isn't it funny that you downloaded a soundtrack where one of the songs is Nothing Ever Happens on Mars?
Yep. It's pretty great. And then I just spent 10 years making things happen on Mars.
Exactly. I'll show you, Christopher Guest.
Nothing ever happens on Mars. And the songs are deliberately, like, there's one that's deliberately cheesy.
Yeah.
There's one that's deliberately opening songy. There's one that's deliberately terrible. Like, there's the song, like, I mean, starting with Spinal Tap, these guys were so great and still are so great with music.
Yes. And they toured as Spinal Tap.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, when A Mighty Wind was coming out in promotion of that, they would do a show and they would open for themselves as the Herdsmen. Wasn't that the name of their?
I will have to look that up.
I cannot remember offhand the name of their trio.
But boy,
they would open for themselves. They would do a set as the folk trio, and they would play Spinal Tap. And sometimes people would not know that they had switched because there's a drastic difference in their look.
Yes, but I guess that depends on whether you're a McKean, Shearer, Guest fan, or if you're a heavy metal Spinal Tap fan.
Right, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That is true. But I think they also went on tour with all of the groups because they learned how to play their instruments for, so the new Main Street Singers, they had to learn, those of them that played instruments had to learn how to play them, but they all could sing.
Mm-hmm.
And Mitch and Mickey, Eugene Levy obviously has a musical pedigree having done Godspell.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see a bit of their musical talent, he and Catherine O'Hara in Best in Show, as the Flex release their album, Do It at Terrier Style. and their song that they do before they leave, the God loves a terrier. Yes, he does.
That's another thing these movies do so well is those denouements after the event. But let's talk about the event. So, that's now my brain is conflating all of them it's one of those things where like, these are the three movies that I could talk about and say the name of the wrong one.
Yeah.
But you'd know what I was talking about.
Yes.
But when we're specifically talking about those three movies.
Well, let me guide us through them.
Thank you.
So the PBS benefit that they do in A Mighty Wind, the big thing is that Mitch goes missing before his set. And is he going to show up? And of course he does. And they pull it off and then we see where they are afterwards. But we're talking about the main event. That was their main event.
Was the concert.
Yes. And of course the lead up to the concert with Bob Balaban concerned about all the safety issues, and Michael Hitchcock is the one who runs the theater and then eventually just slaps him in the face. Because he doesn't understand, Bob Balaban doesn't understand forced perspective or whether the lights are secured or whether they'll be able to, whether there are enough exits for people, whether they're marked. And it's a great character. And then also Michael Hitchcock, when he starts singing Ave Maria, because he talks about how perfect the acoustics are, which is kind of a callback to his character in Waiting for Guffman, who wants God, I wish I was in this show.
That character to me, and that was such a great introduction to Michael Hitchcock, that he, like all through this movie, I didn't know who this guy was. I think this was the first movie I'd seen him in.
Right.
And I was like, oh, he's really funny in this tiny little part. And then he busts out at the end as like the city councilman who really wanted to be in this show.
Yes.
And it's just a beautiful moment. And of course, then in, Best in Show, he and Michael McKean are, a couple. And
no, that's John.
That's John Michael Higgins.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Am I confusing? Yes.
In Best in Show, Michael Hitchcock is half of
Fred Willard. That's right.
No, he and Parker Posey are the yuppie couple.
Man, I really I need to just have pictures of these people in front of me right now.
He goes from being the townsperson who comes out and is being interviewed during intermission. He goes, well, I mean, geez, Corey, we all knew he could write and direct, but who knew he could act and dance and sing and just the sets of the music. God, I wait, like that was his.
That's moment. Right. And then it was he and Parker Posey in Best in Show as the type A alpha.
Yeah. The Michigan couple. Who he has the Orson Bean, like everything they order is from catalogs because they don't have to deal with people and it's perfect. And they're transferring all their emotions onto their dog. He's freaking out. And then in in A Mighty Wind, he's briefly there as the guy who runs the theater where the benefit's being held. But that benefit is the main concert where everything seems to go well. And then, in Best in Show, it's of course the Mayflower Dog Show. And the only notable, all the main characters make it to the finals except for Michael Hitchcock and Parker Posey's dog. Who barks and jumps on the judge.
Yes, the ones who wanted to be the most perfect. Yes. And, I gotta say that was maybe the most satisfying of the three events for me was Best in Show because I feel like the right people won. Yes. Because if you start at the end of the movie and you go, these are the people that are going to win.
Right.
You have to crap on them for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
Just their lives are the absolute hardest. It's Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy.
As Jerry and Cookie Fleck.
That's right. And the Flecks wind up having to stay in the boiler room instead of in a hotel room.
Because they don't have money, so their card gets denied at the hotel. Then there's then this is great. Like there's such a great couple. It's great character work because he's got the big fake front teeth and he's just sort of an aw shucks kind of awkward guy. She is someone who was an absolute party girl who is very much in love with him. But the running joke of the film, of course, is whenever they run into someone, there's a guy who has had sex with her that recognizes her like, oh, I never, like one guy's like, I banged a lot of waitresses in my day, but you were the best. And she's like, you never forget the best. Like she's not ashamed of her past.
She treats it like a baseball player who has fans coming up to him all the time. She has complete
agency, but she has to remind Jerry that she still loves him. And that she's like, beat goes on, man. My husband. This is my husband. Beat goes on. But that's the main event there. And it is great. Her tweaking her knee. And Jerry having to go out and
with his two left feet.
Yes. And it's right. He literally has two left feet, but also the fact that when she tries to walk after she falls down, that her right knee wobbles is hilarious because of the way she plays it. And then at the end, when he does win and she comes to see him, she's walking fast, but her leg still wobbles on every step of her right leg. It's just such great character work.
And additionally, along with those two most put upon characters being the ones that ultimately win, to see the juiciest villains of this whole collection of movies, Jane Lynch and Jennifer Coolidge, get their comeuppance in the end.
Even though they start their,
it's not, I mean, they have their,
they start a magazine.
Like Lesbians with Dogs, magazine.
Yes, because at the beginning, Jennifer Coolidge is married to a very old man who's clearly about to die. And she talks about, he's so great. We can talk about anything or not talk. We could talk or not talk for hours. Just such a great moment.
But yeah, and their comeuppance isn't like the villain getting, like falling off the building at the end. It's a little more like Mr. Scrooge getting visited by three ghosts.
Yes.
I just love the end of Best in Show.
Yes. It is a great ending.
But you've also got the big concert at the end of, what do you think?
I think Red, White, and Blaine.
It's tough to beat Red, White, and Blaine. In terms of that being the culminating event,
and then they think that Guffman is there, but it's not Mort Guffman, it's
Loomis.
Loomis.
There must be something wrong. My name is Loomis.
Yeah. And he came down. Yeah. I mean, and where they all wind up after that.
Do you think we have a shot at Broadway? Oh, sure. Oh my God, you guys, did you hear that?
Oh my goodness.
This is just going to be Hal and I quoting movies for an hour, by the way.
Like you point out, I was just thinking of it. A penny for your thoughts.
A dime for your dreams. And a shiny new quarter to peek at your schemes. I reckon we're in love. And the fact that they lost their leading man, so Corky had to play opposite Parker Posey.
Yes.
This musical is too perfect. We're theater nerds. The finale has to go to Waiting for Guffman.
Absolutely. 100%. I'll tell you what, before we break down the other portions of these films, let's take a brief break.
Sure.
Let's feel the wind blowing through our hair. And you can hear from some of the great shows on the Max Fun Network.
Going into a Bullseye interview, I know that it's somebody who does amazing work, but it's also a real conversation, so I don't know where it's headed.
I think you just clarified something for me that's never been really clear before.
This is the most serious I've ever been in my life. You've made me completely serious. I feel like I'm in therapy.
Bullseye, creators you know, creators you need to know. Find it at MaximumFun.org or wherever you get podcasts.
Chaotic Bro,
Natural Jaeger,
Picosby,
Mount Armus,
the USS Entrepreneur,
Dustbuster Club,
Drunk Shimoda. What are we talking about? Some of the many delightful nonsenses that are now important running gags in the Star Trek podcast we still can't believe we're actually making.
The Greatest Generation is a show that is reviewing Star Trek The Next Generation episode by episode, but it's much sillier and has more fart jokes than that makes it sound.
Our reputations may never recover. You can get our show at MaximumFun.org or wherever you download podcasts.
And we're back.
Hi, everybody. Covered wagons, open-toed shoes. Everybody dance.
Oh, God.
Man, that is one of those movies that is, this is going to be hard for me to pick anything but Waiting for Guffman, because that is one of those movies, if I had 5 DVDs, that I grabbed out of my apartment in a fire, Waiting for Guffman would be one of them.
Yeah, it is a tough one to topple. What are some other criteria, though? How would we judge it? We judge it by the cast of characters? Do you want to talk about that?
I mean, you could pick one actor and just base it on their character in each of the movies.
Let me ask you this.
I'm not saying we should do that, but I'm saying that's how tight this ensemble is.
So you've got in Waiting for Guffman, Corky St. Clair, even though he does not admit it, he talks about his wife Bonnie.
I buy all her pantsuits.
It's clear that he's supposed to be a homosexual man, and he makes the joke of like, I'm just gonna go and bite my pillow. In Best in Show, you got the gay couple played by Michael McKean and
Higgins.
Yeah, and Higgins.
The one that I thought previously was Michael Hitchcock.
Yeah, where Michael McKean was previously married to a woman, and then he felt, so he's a little bit fey, I guess, but, you know, Higgins is a flaming queen. And then in A Mighty Wind, you've got Harry Shearer's character who is trans. Who is either transitioning into being a woman or he wants to dress as a woman.
Which is brilliant to have Harry Shearer play a trans person.
Yes.
Because Harry Shearer's voice is famously down here.
Yes. And he does shave his beard by the end because he has one of those beards with no mustache.
Yeah, which is
the Sievert coupe. He has a Sievert
They
coupe.
all look like all of the herdsmen look like a Woolly Willy. They look like variations on a Woolly Willy.
Yes, that's right, because Christopher Guest has the hair, the fluffy hair around the sides, just around the sides, and a mustache.
I believe so. I gotta look at a picture of these guys.
And then Michael McKean just looks like Michael McKean.
Yeah.
But my question is, and we're not the people to answer this.
Right. We are 2 straight white males.
But I wonder how insensitive those 3 things are and how much it dings each film. Like because I don't remember in watching Best in Show, which I just watched very recently, I was watching going, it is a caricature. However, they're playing real people and they're never judged. There are people who are maybe a little uncomfortable or just don't know how to deal with Higgins. I don't think anybody dislikes him. I don't think there's any gay bashing or lesbian bashing that happens. But I wonder, and it's not something we can handle just sort of talking out loud, to what extent that makes these films problematic.
I'd be curious to know, because to me what it seems like, and this again is from the perspective of someone who has not dealt with this.
Right.
What it seems to me like is Waiting for Guffman is not making fun of gay. It's jabbing at the denial.
Right.
Best in Show is not making fun of, gay people. It's making fun of theatricality.
Right.
And, A Mighty Wind, I don't think it's ever really a punchline, his transgenderness.
No, I think it's a surprise because you don't expect him to be trans or anything like that. And so it's like, oh, who would be to say this is the least likely person to be trans is kind of, I think, maybe being blind to the idea that anybody could have, could be trying to figure their identity out and trying to sort of establish and discover who they are. But it does, I just want to bring it up because it stood out to me in a way that it didn't 17 years ago watching it. And that being said, my favorite characters in Best in Show are Michael McKean and
when he comes in and starts decorating the hotel room.
Yes, that they have their full setup. Like, you just know who this couple is. They
for this
feel like
overly
real people.
Pampered theatrical dog. Yeah. And it's all about like, this is what the dog is going to love.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite moments in the film is when they're getting ready to go to bed and Michael McKean is calling the person who's house sitting for them, who's watching Tyrone, their male Shih Tzu, who does not compete. And he asked for him to be put on the phone, and Higgins comes over and lays his head on Michael McKean's shoulder while he's listening, and like, I can hear him breathing, like just like chuckling and then singing him his favorite song. It's such as odd as it is that he's singing a lullaby to a Shih Tzu that probably is sniffing its own butthole on the other end of the phone. It is a very real moment. And you're like, oh, they genuinely love each other. They love their life. They're very happy with who they are. They make no apologies.
Yeah.
They seem like they would be the most fun to hang out with.
Oh, yeah.
I just loved because those characters feel real to me. Maybe it's not, maybe that one holds up the best of the three of them because you get to see a queer character or queer characters that are just sort of out living their lives and there's no judgment put on them.
Yeah. There's no time to judge them because it's all about judging those dogs.
Yes, you've got to judge the dog.
If I'm judging this couple over here, it's not because they're gay. It's because they're an obstacle to me getting that cup and winning.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We've talked about a lot of the characters in Best in Show. We haven't talked about many of the characters in Mighty Wind.
Yeah.
Or even, we haven't even talked about Waiting for Guffman either. We haven't talked about Eugene Levy's character, who's brilliant audition where he sings the medley, and it's one of the worst auditions you could ever see. And as soon as he leaves,
but for Blaine,
he's brilliant. And who knew that the dentist was a star? And he can't see without his glasses on. His eyes go crossed.
Like cross-eyed, buck-toothed, two left feet. He is laying on the old school clowning techniques thick in these movies.
Yes, he is. And even in Mighty Wind as Mitch, where the older version of him seems to have trouble speaking or understanding what's going on. Yeah, I just love that older version of Mitch, who is clearly like he's lost his mind since they broke up in the 60s, and her dynamic of becoming essentially just like a well-to-do sort of suburban wife. It's such an interesting dynamic that they play off. It's probably the most serious they are in all three of the films for sure. But I think it works well. Then the new Main Street.
Parker Posey with the new Main Street Singers.
Where she was a homeless prostitute.
You remember all of these details so well.
She was a teen runaway.
Right.
And then she ran into a theme park and heard the Main Street Singers and then became a member of the group. And then you have, John Michael Higgins and, Jane Lynch, who are the new leaders. They're the new Main Street Singer leaders, who are a couple that is in like a weird, not satanic, but they worship colors. So like they have that weird like that red, yellow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Like they have an odd, and she was, I think she might have been in pornography or something. Like they all have an odd checkered past.
Yeah.
And they found salvation in being theme park singers.
I wonder well, look, as a former theme park employee, most of the people there have checkered pasts, and we all just happy to be there. We'd all be crossing the Mexican border right about now.
How realistic is that group of singers when you watch it?
It's
not to blow past your running into old Mexico with all of your cohorts.
Yeah, Mickey and Donald and Pluto and I all crossed the border. We can't talk about it. No, there's a little bit of truth in it. I don't know who there actually worked in a theme park, if anyone did. I mean, we had a Main Street at Disney. Still do.
Yeah, it's still there.
I mean, it's the old Main Street. There's not a new Main Street.
No.
They did put in a new Main Street at California Adventure, though.
That's right, where it looks like California when Walt Disney arrived.
That's right.
LA.
There's Buena Vista Street.
Buena Vista Street.
That's
Thank
right.
you.
These are the new Buena Vista Street singers, not to be confused with the new Buena Vista Social Club down in Cuba. Brilliant musicians, all with those flowery short sleeve shirts. No, it's that way of moving and that way of relating to an audience is so perfectly captured.
Okay. Yeah. The styles and the music, it feels like the music is more of a star of this film than the characters are. Not that there aren't great characters, but when I think about just the song of Mighty Wind, when I travel through the highways of this land I love so much, every carpenter and cowboy, every blind man on a crutch, like it's so folksy. Like you totally get what they're making fun of if you've ever heard folk music.
And it's also, it was those guys that wrote it. Yes. They wrote,
yes.
The same team that wrote because it's the same three guys, the same team that wrote the Spinal Tap tunes, which are all legendary classic songs.
Pretty sure it's the three of them that wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean. That's the team.
Yeah. They're the creative force behind the music. It's just so good.
Man. That's the thing. The music, I think, at the end of, A Mighty Wind, it's probably better music than at the end of Waiting for Guffman. If only because you hear all of it. And these are songs that are specifically written to have been popular tunes.
Right. They were hits.
Right. Not specifically written to be terrible.
Do you think it's harder to write bad music than it is I've
only ever done that.
But we've both been performing. Would you say it's harder to act pretend to act poorly on purpose?
Yeah, that always drives me nuts.
So this is a challenge in that.
It's hard to do. And this is the best, Waiting for Guffman's the best version of that I've seen.
Yeah. And I think character-wise, it's got to be between Guffman or Best in Show. Best in Show's got so many. Harlan Pepper, who owns the fishing and tackle shop, but wants to be
Harlan Pepper.
Yeah, Harlan Pepper, who in the end is doing when he tries to say fat, and he can't say it. And the thing is like, maybe I'll try to say chubby. Maybe I'll try that. Chucky. Nope, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to do.
A ventriloquist.
Yeah, and then at the end he's performing it like a VFW or like a VA, and he can't do that. He knocks over the set and he's doing the lassos, but I mean,
it's the characters in Waiting for Guffman, and maybe it's because that's what we grew up with. We were theater kids, and you had the local couple that he gave her notes.
Oh Lord, Fred Willard and Catherine O'Hara. Let's talk about Fred Willard for a second.
Yeah, we should give some honorable mentions to some of the greats in this collection.
Oh my goodness.
Because you could have just as easily said, let's talk about Catherine O'Hara for a second.
Oh my goodness, she's brilliant. She's so brilliant every time
in each of these movies.
She's on the screen. She's so talented and so funny and such a great improviser because that was her background. But she's also an incredible actor.
Yeah.
And that's been proven time and time again. I mean, even in a movie like Home Alone, she really helps ground the film. But she helps with Beetlejuice as well. She kind of grounds that film, even though she's playing a bizarre character.
All of her characters always have real human desires, and they're but you wanted to talk about Fred Willard, and Fred Willard.
Oh my God. Fred Willard is the, what is it? She's Sheila, and I can't remember his character's name.
Rod and Sheila?
Ron and Sheila. them when they go to audition and then afterwards going, should we strike it? We've worked with Corky before. We're familiar with all the terms. Like,
and they sing Midnight at the Oasis and have a whole lead up song to it.
Yeah.
Fred Willard in all of these movies, in Best in Show, Fred Willard just sitting at a table with Michael Hitchcock.
No, the British guy.
The British, again, I'm putting Michael Hitchcock in every role.
Name escapes because he's
an actual, isn't he an actual British, like, dog show caller?
No, the guy is
just an actor.
I think he's an actor, but he brings some reality to it. But Fred Willard, the great thing about Fred Willard is he always seems like he is not in the room with anybody else that he's performing with. Not that he isn't connected to them, but he's just going to roll through and get his stuff in the best possible way, especially like whether he's talking about the judges or what the dogs look like or
how much do you think I can bench press?
Yes. I know we're going a little off the reservation here.
Oh man. I met Fred Willard once.
Yeah.
I love that we just sound like two old dudes sitting on a porch like, I met Paul Dooley, I met Fred Willard. I went to an award ceremony in Chicago and Fred Willard was in front of me in line for the caviar.
This is
the like bougiest sounding thing that I could say. This makes me sound like I was at the blah, 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 blah. No, I was in college and I was accepting an award on behalf of my school.
Okay.
At the Chicago Film Critics Awards.
Right.
And Fred Willard was there and they had caviar. It was the first time I'd ever even seen caviar. Maybe the last. I'm not a caviar person.
No.
And Fred Willard is in front of me putting caviar on toast points. And he turns around to me and just starts going, isn't it funny that we're eating fish eggs? And then just goes off for 5 minutes on caviar. And I was like, what? Just to me. And had it been anyone else behind him, he would have done the exact same thing just to talk to the world. It wasn't even particularly great material. It was just him BSing to whoever was around. I feel like that may be how he lives his life.
It's just, they just go, Fred, can you just show up in this room?
Yeah.
And your name is Ron. And then boom, he just goes.
And he just starts talking.
Oh, and that's the film where in Waiting for Guffman, he's had penis reduction surgery.
Yes. Maybe has had penis reduction.
They talk about it at dinner. Yeah. Catherine O'Hara just shaking her head with that weird, like, big hair that she has with the curl in it.
But isn't it,
no, it's just an accepted part of his character.
That he has had, that he has had penis reduction surgery. I thought that was his cover up.
No.
Says, he's got a little problem. And she goes, well, it's not little anymore. And he goes, well, I had penis reduction surgery.
I thought, well, I never picked that up. I'm going to have to check it out again.
It's Fred Willard lying in that moment.
Maybe so.
Look, we've spent 2/3 of this time talking about Waiting for Guffman. And a third of it talking about the other two movies. Can we just rule yet, or do we have to go and talk about other stuff?
People of the world. If you haven't seen these movies, go watch them all. Watch them in order. Watch them in the order that they came out and appreciate how great they all are and how skilled all of the performers are and what they've achieved as an ensemble. But Waiting for Guffman is just an achievement like no other in this genre. It's real and surreal and painful and hilarious and uncomfortable and comfortable all at the same time. Whether it's Larry Miller as from the town council, or if it's David Cross who thinks that who talks about the spot where aliens were supposed to have landed. It's just a brilliant piece of work, and you get to see the ensemble that filled out the majority of the rest of these films in that first one. And it's so good. So Red, White, and Blaine, we salute you. Happy sesquicentennial to Blaine, Missouri. Sorry that Mort Guffman never showed up, but we did, to say that Waiting for Guffman is the best Christopher Guest mockumentary asked and answered.
Oh, I love that movie so much.
It's so good. It's so good.
Thank you to
Cindy Clausen. Thank you
for giving us this topic. But there are many more topics to discuss. So please reach out to us on Twitter at We Got This Tweets, or check out the Maximum Fun subreddit. A flame war could be happening.
Who knows? But send us an email too. WeGotThisPodcast@gmail.com, or go to our Facebook group. That's where all the talking's going on, folks. We want to have a conversation with you. Facebook.com/groups/We Got This Podcast. Thank you to producer Ken Plume, researcher Kate McManus, graphic designer Uri Kelman, and QA engineer Jen Alba.
Thanks as always to our musicians, Jonathan Dinerstein and Mike Furman, for our score and theme song respectively. And thanks to you, our listeners. You know, nothing ever happens on Mars, but I would take a penny for your thoughts if we could make everyone dance. No, I screwed that up.
You got far enough. For Mark Gagliardi.
Everybody dance.
For Mark Gagliardi, I'm Hal Lublin.
For Hal Lublin, I'm Mark Gagliardi. Don't worry, everybody. We got this.
We got this.
MaximumFun.org.
Comedy and culture.
Artist owned.
Listener supported.